As Donald Trump greets Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House, the US president reiterates his call for Palestinians to leave Gaza. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has tonight been meeting President Trump for talks in Washington, the first foreign leader to visit the White House since Mr. Trump returned to power. Tom Bateman is there for us live, and Gaza, of course, Tom, will have been top of their agenda, one suspects.
It is, of course, Clive, one of the gifts of an American president to choose the first foreign leader that will come and visit him in the White House as a means of showing the alliances that are important to this country. And so Mr. Netanyahu arrived here within the last hour, greeted at the door by Donald Trump, as they start these talks now at an absolutely critical phase of the Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal, trying to move from that first to second phase of the agreement. What we've been hearing, though, from Mr. Trump over the last 10 days and even today in the run-up to this meeting has been much more about what he sees as what should happen in a third phase in Gaza, talking about and calling on Egypt and Jordan to take Palestinians, up to 2 million Palestinians, he says, that in his language should be relocated. He's repeated this again today, saying that they would have no option but to leave because of the scale of destruction.
I don't know how they could want to stay. It's a demolition site. It's a pure demolition site. If we could find the right piece of land or numerous pieces of land and build them some really nice places with plenty of money in the area, that's for sure, I think that would be a lot better than going back to Gaza, which has had just decades and decades of death.
Now, these comments are worrying Arab leaders already over the weekend, putting out a statement utterly rejecting this. They would see it as forcible displacement, nothing short of expulsion of Palestinians, and saying it would lead to only further regional instability. I think when it comes to the ceasefire agreement, Mr. Trump will be trying to scrutinise the level of commitment of Mr. Netanyahu to get to that second phase. The ambition for Mr. Trump himself is to try and widen out to a much broader regional agreement involving Saudi Arabia. He wants to be seen as the peacemaker, the deal maker in the Middle East.
Well, while President Trump was meeting Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli forces have been conducting large-scale operations in the occupied West Bank. They say it's to suppress Iranian-backed militant groups in Jenin. Residents and officials there have described the city, which houses a large Palestinian refugee camp, as a ghost town, with destruction on a scale not seen for 20 years. Israel had ordered civilians to leave as part of the operation, and Lucy Williamson has sent us this report from Jenin.
Israel's war with its Palestinian enemies didn't stop with the ceasefire in Gaza. It moved to the occupied West Bank. Jenin's refugee camp, seen as the new Jabalia by some. Officials here say more than 120 buildings have been demolished by Israeli forces since their operation began. Israel's defense minister promised a new approach, saying gunmen will not be able to return here. Today, rescue teams were called to the rubble. Reports that some in the camp had not left and been buried alive. One man brought out tonight, still alive, they said. Others still missing. An Israeli security official acknowledged claims about a man wanted by Palestinian security forces who he said had stayed in the building despite knowing it would be demolished.
More than 2 weeks into this operation, it's clear the scale and the strategy has changed. With a ceasefire in Gaza holding, Israel is digging in across the occupied West Bank to take on armed Palestinian groups here.
Israel has expanded its operation to several other areas of the West Bank, including Tulkarem, where armed groups are also based. Local leaders fear the political ambitions of some in Israel to annex territory here.
The Israelis will not miss this chance of having someone like Trump in the White House. They think it's a big opportunity to put their plans into action, not just for Palestinian territories, but across the Middle East. Israel will quickly start to annex the West Bank, and Jenin is part of that.
Donald Trump has already thrown his weight behind a ceasefire in Gaza. More conflict may not fit with his wider plans for the Middle East, but many in the West Bank fear that Israel's tougher approach here is the price of Gaza's peace. Lucy Williamson, BBC News, Jenin.